Thank you so much for joining us today for Inspire You, Defying the Odds, a Story of Survivorship. Now, please join me in welcoming Matt Bauman, Assistant Vice President of Operations at Miami Cancer Institute. Matt.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Matt Bauman. I am the AVP of MCI, and super delighted to welcome you all to our 5th virtual Inspire You program. As our returning viewers know, this series was created for patients, caregivers, and community members as a platform to share inspirational and motivational guest speakers stories, and each story has a message of hope and healing that hopefully inspires you today. So today we're honored to have Javier Perez as our speaker. For those of you that are South Florida natives, you might already know Javi, but Javi's worked in the public school system for over 23 years and is currently serving as the principal at South Dade Senior High. Javi's story is a serious one and an inspiring one. On the morning of April 26, 2016, while he was watching his son play t-ball, Javi was struck by a drunk driver. And upon arriving to the hospital, he wasn't expected to survive. A skilled medical team that worked tirelessly on him for over 12 hours. And after 3 days in critical condition in their ICU, the trauma doctors were forced to amputate both of his legs in order to save his life. And this trauma clearly was so severe that he spent a total of 70 days in the ICU as the doctors performed over 19 surgeries and countless procedures. And so Javi, the miracle patient, as he was dubbed by the clinical team, it really impressed upon those that were taking care of him, his strength and desire to survive. And today he's home with his wife and 2 children. He continues to receive therapy, but is now walking on a treadmill and soon to be jogging. And one of his greatest joys was competing in 5Ks and half marathons. And so he's looking forward to the day that he can do that again. So throughout his life, he's been tenacious in his pursuit to help others. And I think you'll be able to tell that by his energy just in the moments that we spent together. I think you'll see that's clear. And he's a great motivator and supporter in our community, sponsoring athletes and mentoring future educators with both a firm and unwavering dedication. So it's with absolute joy that I invite you to join me in welcoming Javi Perez as he narrates his incredible journey in Defying the Odds, a Story of Survivorship.
Thank you. Thank you for that great introduction. It's my pleasure being here today, especially with the Baptist family. You guys are a tremendous reason why I am here today, because as you see, and I go a little bit through my story, you'll realize what your family did for me and helped me in my recovery. Like you said, April 26, 2016 is basically the day that changed my life. The story starts in a very negative way, but realistically, 5 years now have gone by, and there's a lot of positives that have come out of the story, and a lot of unbelievable background information and people that we've been able to meet along this journey that I believe have made me a better person and have made me realize the little things in life that sometimes we take for granted are the things that we truly need to cherish. My story starts on April 26, 2016. It was a regular day at work, but I was extremely excited that day due to the fact that my son, who was 7 at the time, had a little league playoff game. So I was hurrying to get out of work. Usually after work, I used to go on 3 to 5 mile runs. So that day we cut it to 3 miles. Took a quick shower and hurried out to the Little League baseball field right at Tamiami Park, which a lot of us know that have lived in South Florida. As the game's going along, pretty excited. A lot of friends, family members there gathered to see the boys play. An old friend of mine approaches one of the sides of the field, a gentleman that I've known for many years that I actually coached his son when he was younger. And we started talking. At that moment, my son was up to bat. And as he hits, he's out. He's the last out of the inning. And for whatever reason, first time ever that he starts crying. So when I see him cry, I start to walk over to the bench, and the coach kind of raises his hand and tells me, "Hey, Hal, don't worry about it. I got it. I'm going to sit down with Jordan and speak to him." At that moment, we obviously our team takes the field, and we're missing. Again, this is T-ball coach pitch, so we're missing an outfielder. No big deal. We start the inning without a right fielder. I once again start talking to the gentleman that I was talking to, and out of the corner of my eye, I see an out of control vehicle coming towards us. Last thing I remember is basically pushing the gentleman out of the way, turning around, and I open my eyes. I'm in the hospital. I can't move. I had all kinds of cables, things coming out. I'm extremely confused, not knowing what's going on, why I'm here. Or the last thing I remember was turning around, seeing the car coming towards me. So obviously my wife, who was sitting next to me in bed, realizes, hey, I'm up. And she kind of calms me down a little bit. And I say, something happened yesterday. The accident, there was an accident. There was something at the ball field. And she realizes that I didn't know what took place. So she explains to me that a month has gone by already, that I've been at the hospital, that I got hit by the car. They had to take me to the hospital. I was currently at the trauma center in Kendall Regional, due to the fact that it was the closest hospital to where the accident took place, and it was a life or death situation. So that's where the paramedics took me. She starts explaining to me that I had been in the hospital for a month. I had, at this point, probably about 15 or so surgeries already, and so much information coming my way. I was still confused. I wasn't thinking correctly. I was still under the medication and things like that. So I just didn't know how to react. I was like, I cannot believe that this is taking place. Now, at that time, my legs had been amputated on day 3. I didn't know that, due to the fact that I was laying in bed. I couldn't move, but I still had pain in my ankles, my toes. So I was experiencing something I learned later, which is the term that they use for that. It's called phantom pain. And so obviously I had no idea. So the one thing I would tell my wife is that my ankles, my toes, my legs are hurting tremendously. Is there something that the nurses or the doctors could do for the pain to stop? So at that moment, she realized that I wasn't aware that my legs had been amputated. So obviously she tells me what took place, and it just destroyed me. At that time, a little more information coming my way, and it was the one thing that, that rest of the day I was destroyed. I couldn't believe that this had taken place. That night, I could tell you I didn't sleep. But at some point at that night, I basically, through prayers, through thinking, through thoughts, I realized that I survived. And there's a bigger reason for me to be here. My kids, which were still young at the time, 5 and 12, are going to have their father here. My wife is here assisting me in any way she can. My parents, my family, and a community that I could tell you, from what my wife told me, hundreds of people going to the hospital on a daily basis, emails, letters, social media posts. It was unbelievable. So at that moment, I said to myself, I'm alive. I'm going to make this work, as far as I'm going to do everything possible for me to be able to live the best life that I can. given the circumstances, obviously my life has changed tremendously, but this is the new me. And from now on, I'm going to do everything possible to be able to get better and to be able to be as close as to the person that I was physically before as possible. What I didn't understand at the time is that, yes, I would be able to become as close as possible to the person that I was physically, but I didn't understand how much I was going to be able to grow mentally during these last 5 years, because just the amount of growth that I've been able to accomplish on the mental side has been unbelievable. And that's the one thing people have always asked, is that how have you been able to deal with your accident, with what you went through, and realistically, I can tell you, hey, it's A, B, C, 1, 2, 3. It's been, I think, a matter of many things. The support I received from my wife, my kids, my immediate family, but realistically also the support that I received from this community, as far as people that I had never met, people that I hadn't seen in 15, 20 years, coming out to see me, to telling me how much they have prayed for me, how much they want me to get better. And I think that was part of the reason that made, I can't let people down. People are for me, so I need to make sure that I do everything possible to get better, to be able to share this story with them. At that point, I realized that, hey, I need to start some type of therapy to be able to start better. I couldn't even sit up in bed. So what I decided to do, little steps every day. Realistically, sitting up in bed about a week. So that every week or every 3 days or whatever it took me, I was going to try to accomplish a new goal. So sitting up in bed, transferring on my own from the bed to the chair. But the main thing that I need to get over mentally was being to see my limbs. And at that point, I was unable to look at my limbs, because for whatever reason, I had a mental block that was telling me, hey, you can't look at your limbs. And every day I tried, well, today I'm going to look at them. Nope, I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. So about a week later, one evening, my son, who was 6 at the time, is standing by my bed and tells me, you know what, Dad, I want to see what your legs look like. And that was obviously a sign, I believe, from up top, that if here's a 6-year-old that is willing to take a look at this, why aren't I able to do it? A grown man that has been through what I've been through. So that night, while the visitors left, my wife, myself, my son and daughter stayed behind, and we uncovered the sheets. I looked at my limbs, and guess what? Not a big deal. But for some reason, our mind sometimes works against certain things. I've had people that a headache will put them in bed for a day or two, anything. So my accident, what I went through, is not to say what other people in our community or what other people are going through in life, because it's how we handle things that define what type of recovery, how we're going to recover, if we are going to recover, if we're not going to recover. And there's not a blueprint to tell you this is the way it needs to be done, because each person is different. I remember being at the hospital, a lot of times the nurses and doctors, they don't want a lot of people in the room. But you know what? I said, I want people in my room. I want visitors to come in. Even at the point where I couldn't really communicate with them, I think having people around me, having them be there, say, telling stories about our friendship, about times that we've spent together, it helped me heal, and it helped me realize that, hey, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to recover, and and I'm going to be able to accomplish great things as my life continues. It's now been 5 years since my accident. I could tell you that the progress has been unbelievable. They told me that I would never be able to wear prosthetics and walk because of the amount of the type of injuries that I had were crushing injuries on both legs. My right leg was amputated below the knee, and my left one was amputated above the knee. I could also say that we never knew anything about amputees as far as myself, my wife, my family. I had never even met an amputee, to be honest with you. And other than what we saw maybe on TV movies or heard about ex-soldiers and what they were going through and things like that. But we were blessed where, while being in the hospital, a friend of mine that I went to high school with knew a prosthetist, someone that works with amputees and does prosthetics for amputees. And he reached out to him and told him, hey, this friend of mine had this accident. Why don't you go by, meet with his family, speak to his wife, and just give some information on what's to come. And the one thing when he met my wife, the one thing he did tell her was that, hey, make sure if he has a need, make sure you do everything possible that leg above the knee, because if he's above the knee on both sides, it's going to be a lot tougher for him to walk later. Guess what? 2 days later, doctor in the room and told my wife I had an infection in my leg, and they told her, we're going to have to amputate above his knee on the right side. Well, my wife told him, unless it's life or death, you're not going to do it, because he's not going to be able to walk correctly later on. They basically told her, well, the type of injuries he has, he's never going to be able to walk. And realistically, he's going to have to be in the hospital. Unless it's life or death, there's no way you're going to touch them. And thankfully, because of that, they were able to save my. Obviously, I spent a little more time in the hospital, but today I'm learning how to jog already. I'm getting a couple times, starting to walk on the treadmill, but I walk without a cane, and that took me about 1.5 years. The journey has not been easy. Nothing in life we do is easy, whether it's our family life, our careers, our own personal journeys. Each one of us has a story, and each story is different, and there's bumps in the road in every. Some of them are a little tougher, but I think with the right attitude, with the right people around you, I think we could all overcome anything in life. To do it, because a lot of times we could say yes, but if we don't put the work in, the work's not going to be easy. The work's never easy in anything we do, as parents, as neighbors, as friends, as anything in life. But as long as we're willing to put in the work, we'll be able to accomplish anything we want. People often tell me that they're sorry for what happened to me. But what they don't realize is that just because my physical appearance seems to be that I'm not doing well, my mental ability is stronger than ever. My family was told, like I said, I would never survive, and learning how to run, driving, doing everything pretty much that I did before my accident. 2 weeks ago, I was out of the country. We were over to Costa Rica with the family, and I could tell you that the trip that I talked about, because the stress that I was going to have in my body, with all the walking, with all the traveling. Obviously, my kids wanted to go see volcanoes, do different things. But I thought to myself, I said, I can't disappoint the family and say I don't feel like doing this because of me and my physical. So I decided to go ahead and take the trip, and I can tell you it's the greatest thing I've ever done. I was able to go up a volcano, able to ride horses, which I used to love before my accident, and I obviously had not been able to do since. I was able to do all those things, and at the end of the day, I was able to do it because to do it. I could have said, no, that's too difficult for me to do. I'm not going to be able to do that. But I wouldn't have realized that, yes, I can do it. The only thing I need is the will and the power to be able to do it. And I'm able to accomplish it. And I think all of us in life go through that. And it's very easy to say, no, it's not possible to be done. But I think the human spirit is so powerful that there's nothing in life we cannot accomplish. Everything we set our minds to do, we'll do, because with hard work, with dedication, and with the right people around us, I think there's softness. When we're faced with adversity, remember that life can always be worse, and you must always focus on the positive in every situation. Thank you.
Javi, that was awesome, man. What an inspiring story. I know our team's going to start fielding some questions from the audience here, so we'll wait for those to trickle in. I guess I have one question for you. Now, when you experience the challenges of life and work and in family troubles, has your process for dealing with those challenges changed? Like, do you have you really kind of changed your process on how you take in the challenge and then maybe think through that and then make a decision on it?
Matt, what a great question, man, because I think that question is so powerful, because we all go through that, especially as professionals, as employees. I've reflected so much in the last 5 years, and to be honest with you, I still love my career. I'm no longer a high school principal. I now work in the school system in a site, in an office, in a district office. But I can tell you that before nights, till 11 o'clock at night, juggling. I never missed any of my kids' events. I was juggling from one end of town to the other to make sure I got to a practice, to make sure I got to a game, to make sure I got to a family event. But at the same time, my work was so important. And in the last 5 years, I realized that life is it could be over at any time. And we have to think about the important things in life. To me, my family, my kids are the most important things. And I've realized that I'm never going to allow anything to get in the way of my kids, my wife, and my family, whether it's work, whether it's an issue or anything, because it could be taken away at any time.
It's awesome, man. We got a few questions here from the audience. The first question is, how did the attitude of the medical staff help you continue with your journey?
Wow, that was the main part that motivated me. I mean, first at ICU when I was at Kendall Regional, but the 2.5 months I spent at Baptist afterwards at the rehab center, and the therapists that I got to know, that still today, some of them are still working with me. I could tell you that I was very tough on them at days. There was days that I used inappropriate language towards them because of the pain that I was feeling, the things that we were doing. But the way that they carried themselves, the way that they handled my situation, and how much they were able to help me. I mean, without them, I wouldn't have been able to do what I did, and I wouldn't have come this far, to be honest with you. The doctors were unbelievable. The nurses that took care of me, the help that I've received, and still till today, the messages. I mean, a lot of those people have become part of my family. The firefighters that went on my call till this day, we still once a year have dinner together at the fire station. We still stay in contact, and it's been such, as sad and as tough as it's been, it's also been extremely rewarding and beautiful.
That's amazing. You mentioned your wife and your kids were super helpful throughout your recovery. I guess for the folks on this call that are caregivers and are taking care of somebody who is dealing with the ultimate hardship, what was one thing that your wife did that was extremely helpful for you that you would provide as maybe a recommendation for the other caregivers on this call?
You know, my wife was very patient with me. Number one, and obviously, this is something that a lot of people cannot do because of different circumstances or whatever it is they're dealing with. But the 5.5 months I was in the hospital, my wife didn't leave my side one night. My kids moved in with my sister-in-law for those, that time, and she slept in a chair next to me every single night. And that to me was the greatest thing that I could have received.
So being present.
Being present, being supportive, but you know what? Also, at times, being tough as well on me, because there was times that I was out of control at the beginning, and being hard-headed and saying no to things that needed to be done. And you know what? Standing up at that time because I couldn't do it for myself and letting me know that no, you're not going to do that, and this is not going to happen, and this is the way it's going to be. And I realized that she was right, and there was 3 or 4 occasions that that's the way the conversation had to go, and it helped me tremendously. It truly did.
What's been kind of some of the most impactful advice that you received in the early days of your recovery? Any one thing stick out to you outside of the love and support and patience of your spouse? Any one line that maybe stuck out to you that you've kind of kept with you?
No leg problem. A couple of nurses would come in and they tell me, "Hey, you're okay." They used to take me when I was a Baptist. They took me at the beginning on a community trip to see how I was going to react when I was out and about. And that's something that, at least at the time, they told me they hadn't done often, but with me, they felt I needed that. So every Friday, we went out to the mall, we went out to different places. And I think that was extremely helpful as well, due to the fact that, hey, here I am, I have no legs, I'm in a wheelchair. This is the first time that I'm ever going to go out to the world looking like this. So realistically, mentally, it was tough, but their assistance and the way they treated me and the way they took small steps for me able to do this helped me tremendously, because by the time I left the hospital, it was the norm. It wasn't like, oh, now I'm home and I need to do this for the first time. How am I going to react?
That's awesome. Somebody from the audience just asked a question that I think is great, because I know, recovery is a two-way street. It's not just you dealing with that, although you're dealing with the most immediate challenges. But also, when you have kids involved in your recovery or involved in illness or diagnosis, it can often, as be extremely difficult on them as well. I guess, could you share with us how you helped your children cope with your injury and maybe the new life that they would experience with their father?
You know what, Matt? That's an interesting question, because in my case, my kids helped me. I didn't have to help them. And it's unbelievable, because that is what my wife and I thought. We spoke to counselors, different people on about our kids and how we were going to handle this and what steps we were going to take to make sure that they wouldn't go through anything that would hurt them in the future. But what we didn't realize is that I learned from them tremendously, and I saw the resilience in them and how much they were willing to sacrifice, and how much they were willing to assist at a young age to make sure that I was comfortable and that I was recovering the way that I should. That it truly threw me for a loop due to the fact that I thought it was going to be totally around where us, the adults, were going to help the children overcome this. But realistically, they were the ones that helped me.
That's awesome. Really, that's a cool and encouraging thing to hear. I guess,
my son, even to this day, my son is 10 now. We go out and, 10-year-old, that was a big fear for me in the hospital when I realized what took place, that I had no legs now. How are my kids going to react? How are they going to handle this? Are they going to see me differently? Are they going to be embarrassed by my appearance? All those things go through your mind. I mean, I think it's normal. But even today, my son basically goes everywhere with me. He's like my best friend, and always making sure, hey, are you okay? Are you going to need anything? Have we walked too much? Do you need to take a break? And it's pretty cool to see that.
that's super cool. So we probably have some cancer patients on this call. I guess, what one piece of advice would you give to them?
The road is never easy, and obviously dealing with what we deal with, and again, each person has their own story. Each person deals with things differently, and what's to say mine is bigger than yours or yours is bigger than mine? We don't know that. The one thing that I could say is that stay strong, believe in a higher power, listen to those around you, especially your loved ones. But the most important thing is being around them is extremely important. Being around people. I think being alone is the worst thing you could experience, especially when you're going through some tough times. Being alone, at the beginning, I hated nights. I wouldn't sleep at time because that was my alone time. My wife was asleep next to me, and I would just lay in bed and pretty much all night, and just at times bad thoughts will go through your mind. So those are things you got to fight through. But as long as you're willing to do it, and I think understanding it is extremely important. Understanding, hey, these things are going to happen, and it's okay for them to happen. Now we can't allow them to happen constantly and for long periods of time. But half a day I fall into this rut and I'm not feeling well, I'm going to snap out of it. And as long as we're able to understand that, I think we could overcome it.
That's great. And for the I guess for the caregivers on this call, what one piece of advice would you have for them?
Patience, lots of patience. I'll be honest with you. I believe that what my wife went through was a lot tougher than what I went through, because I arrived to the hospital. They tell her he won't make it through the night. There's no way because of the type of injuries. I think they stopped counting at 150 pints of blood that they put into me. And she says she goes out to the lobby. There's over 300 people there. And she had to stand there, explain to them what was going on step by step. Every hour or so, she would come out, give them an update. And realistically, listen, I slept for a month. And that first month, she's the one that went through everything. And I truly believe that emotionally, it was tougher for her than it was for me because of what she had to go through. So the caregivers are the most important people in our lives when we're going through any type of situation that we need someone biased. Their job, I think it's a lot harder than the patients.
I think that's great advice to the caregivers out there, and patience, obviously a virtue and one that's not easily found. We have another question here, which is besides the support of your family, do you feel that your faith played a big role in your recovery and attitude? And if so, how?
It did play a huge role. Every night I prayed, every night I spoke to God. And I truly believe that by doing that, it eased my pain, and I was able to relax. And I knew deep inside that this happened to me for a reason, that if it would have happened to somebody else that was there that day, maybe they wouldn't have recovered the same way I was. I was chosen because guess what? Like I told you guys at the beginning, my son was supposed to be there where the car came through. And luckily, that there's no way that that was a coincidence that at that point, he acted up. He didn't want to go back in the field, and the coach stayed with him. And when we started, there was none of the players were there in that spot exactly where the car went, and that's where he would have been.
It's awesome, man. What a beautiful story. There's a ton of really positive comments, just folks sharing love and gratitude at your inspiring story and your attitude. The last comment was, may God bless you and your family, and that you're inspiring. It's been an absolute pleasure, my man, spending some time with you. Definitely appreciate you presenting your entire inspiring story and journey to survivorship. Want to thank the group, and Javi, feel free to thank the group that joined us for attending today. Anything you want to say to the audience here?
Thank you so much for being here with us today. And I basically want to say we're all going through things. We all go through things. I want to make sure that you guys stay positive, that you keep the faith, and whatever faith you do have, and whatever it is you believe in, keep that going strong, because without that, we can't overcome anything in life.
Amen to that. We thank everybody on the call for joining us this afternoon. We definitely hope to continue inspiring you as we offer these virtual presentations. Please stay connected with the Miami Cancer Institute family, and we're here to serve you and hopefully offer you the best cancer care. Thanks, Javi. Thank you, everybody.